from the chair, a different chair. I got back from Italy after staying with my parents. We always go there over the Christmas, but everybody was ill. Yeah, I was ill. Well, I'm feeling a lot better now. But I do like that ambience of it. So this is the closest thing I've got here to the intellectual chair. So what am I going to talk about tonight? Well, it's optimization, actually, but not optimization in the sense of programming optimization, but optimization in the sense of convenience and the human condition. We love conveniences. The problem is they come with a cost, and people often don't think about what the cost of those conveniences are. And I'm not talking about monetary cost, money. I'm not talking about even the resources that impact our environment, and the planet, and although those are true too, but there's a deeper one and a more important one, frankly, and that is the cost that it has to our experience. I've got a niece, and she recently has been given some LPs, some vinyl, and she wants to find a good player for this. I'll be looking to recommend something. My sister asked me. But it got a bit of a discussion going about the nature of vinyl. And of course, we're all familiar, I'm sure, with the raging debates which started out way back when CDs first came out about saying what was the superior audio format. As we all know, the superior audio format is in fact vinyl. No. Well, if you look at it in terms of the actual measurable audio quality, it's going to be CDs, which are superior, by the way, to the way that most people listen to music now. Because now most people listen to music that's compressed. Actually, the music quality that people experience is worse these days than it was. So it is entirely possible for things to get worse like that. But it wasn't from vinyl to CDs. From vinyl to CDs, you had digitization of the audio, which, will influence it somewhat, although there's debates rage on whether anybody can hear it, the difference. But CDs turned into streamed music, and streamed music is not raw. Streamed music is compressed, heavily compressed, and the difference is quite marked, especially with certain kinds of music. If heavy metal, for example, is becoming less popular now, it might be because heavy metal, it's the theory, doesn't compress so well. Maybe not. I don't know. I do know that I listened to some David Bowie that had been remastered, and it sounded awful. It was unlistenable to. But it was, I don't know, very distorted. I need to go back at some point and listen to the vinyl, and I can compare what is now the official version of Heroes, that we can get on our streaming media, and go and dig out the vinyl, find it somewhere, and then do an audio comparison of the two, not because vinyl is better as a medium, but because vinyl captured the audio in a certain way that has been messed about with since, and because the audio that you listen to is not just the medium. If you can hear noises, a lot of wind right now. it's not just the medium, it's the whole system, the way the whole thing interplays. So when you got your copy of Heroes on vinyl and you played it on your expensive hi-fi system, which is what people had, with big speakers in the room and care taken over perhaps the acoustics of your room, and you would go there with your vinyl and you'd put it on the platter and you would take the needle and you put it, it all feels very archaic, right? But the thing was, it was a temple for music, a church for music. There was a ritual, but there was also care taken, attention to detail with the speakers and the amplifiers, and people trying to get the best audio quality they could. This is all gone. Well, not completely, but by and large it's gone. And now people don't really care. They shove anything into their ears. I mean, when they listen to their music from little speakers this size, or on Alexa thing, those, or through their TV speakers, they don't care. So it's more complicated than just to say that, one medium is better than the other. Yes, the raw data on a CD is better than the thing on a vinyl, but it's now irrelevant because nobody uses CDs anymore, so it doesn't really matter. Now people stream the music, and the streamed music is worse than the vinyl. There's very little doubt about that. On vinyl, the audio may be noisier. There may be little crackles from static or little dust on the thing. There'd be some distortion, of course, but it isn't fundamentally messed with in the way that MP3 compression messes with audio. It is uncompressed, and and as I said, played on whatever comes to hand. And it's because it's convenient, and that's what we do. Is we embrace convenience, no matter what happens to the quality of our experience. The quality of the experience becomes nothing compared with the convenience. We get this in so many things in our lives. Food is a classic example, isn't it? There was a time where, rich or poor, you could get good quality food. It would be within grasp, within society, and that would be the norm. And in Italy is still actually sort of the case. I mean, you go to the airport and you get a panini, and they're delicious compared to what you will get at an airport in the UK. Go to an Italian airport, you have a treat, but a coffee is great. So these things are not completely dead in the world, but they are in danger of dying out, like so many things, in the name of convenience. No, we've got fast food. You cram in the fast food instead. So we've got fast music. And what we used to do, when I was a wee thing, when I was a kid, and we didn't have social media as a thing. I mean, it's like, the children of today, young people of today, probably can't wrap their heads around the fact that this social media thing didn't exist. What did we do? God, we must have been bored all the time, huh? Well, yeah, that was a lot of boredom, but that was actually due to school. But I digress. Maybe it would have been the same for everybody else. I spent a lot of time bored. But there were things, but not because of social media. I mean, frankly, I do social media now and I find it pretty boring. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, really, is it? But anyway, I digress. So yeah, one of the things we would do in our yearning for a connection, which in the end is one of the things that drives the whole social media thing, it would be music. I mean, it was a big deal. It was huge. It was bigger than it is now. I actually do think so. Bigger in the sense that it was more important than it is now. Music now is not very important. I don't think. I don't sense that. I might be wrong. But I don't sense that there is that importance. You know, when you look on any of the mainstream media and what goes on there, and it's if there is a church, it's the church of fast music. You know, like fast music, like fast food. It's pop music, but pop music that is compared to what we had 50 years ago is pretty unsophisticated. You know, there was a greater sophistication in the music. This is undenied. It's been studied. You can analyse it. You can do the math, right? But what we would do with this thing is that we would hear that there was some. What was the radio actually? So we'd listen to radio. The radio's gone, hasn't it? Because it's more convenient. It's more convenient to be able to just choose your songs. But actually, it's even more convenient just to have the songs fed to you. So it's ironic, really. We started off. We had radio where we couldn't choose the music. So then we had the choice, but the choice is rather fatiguing. I'll come back to that in a minute. It's a bit tiring to have to make a choice. So what happens now is people just leave. They let the services stream the music to them, and now everybody's listening to their own radio station. In effect, that's tuned just for them. But that means we're not having a shared experience. You see, because with radio, if I was listening to a radio show, somebody else could be listening to the same radio show, and then we would talk. Oh, did you hear that tune yesterday? Do you hear the tune? Anybody do that anymore? We don't share an experience. It's just sort of randomly fed to us. So, convenience. It's more convenient just to have the music chosen for you. But anyway, if I go back, as I'm going all over the place today, but if I go back to when I was a teenager and younger, what would happen there is you would listen to the radio and you would hear the top 20 or the top 40. And they would play the top 40 tunes. And you could actually listen to them. It was amazing. You couldn't now. Maybe I'm wrong, but I certainly couldn't. Because if you listen to 40 tunes from the top of from the charts, you know, the top of the pops, they all sound the same. I mean, literally, it's the same song over and over and over and over and over again. You know, listen to the same song for 40 times. There was such a diversity of music, so you'd have different styles sort of competing with each other and so on, and there would be some brilliant songs. I mean, I remember the Electric Light Orchestra as a fan of the ELO, you know, so there's that. I can't remember the name of the album. Diary of the one with the Don't Bring Me Down, Bruce, and the Diary of Horace Wimp. And I was in my about 13, I guess, 13 or 14 might have been when that came out. And it's like, I've got to have it. And so what you would do is be excited. Oh, I'm going to go to the record shop. No convenience. Now it's nothing. It's like, yeah, I guess it's all right. I listen to it again a bit later. Then you forget about it. No, we'd be excited. It's like, okay, to go get the latest single buy, go to get the album. And you go to the shop and you have to put effort into it. So you go with your money, your pocket money that you'd saved, you get your thing and you carry your back home, and then there's all the expectation, and then you go, I can't wait, and you go there and you get your record player and you put it on, and you would give it your attention. You see, there's a cost for convenience. What we did as human beings was make a terrible, terrible mistake. We confused quantity with experience. It doesn't matter anymore, almost, what it is that you listen to. It matters only that you can and it's easy. I remember I was working, and as a result of it being easy, it has no value. That's the thing. I mean, I'm simplifying it a bit, but I mean, I've got a point, haven't I? I remember I was a game designer I worked with not so long ago, and he said, "Oh, I don't like music." I always find that rather puzzling. It's like, how can anybody not like music? That's like saying, I don't like breathing. We are fundamentally musical creatures. Music is an amazingly important part of human culture, always has been. How can you not like music? I just can't. It's like saying, I don't like pretty colours. I just didn't understand that. But then he said something which helped me understand. He said, oh, the only reason I is for the words. I go, oh, that's because you haven't really been exposed to actual proper music. You limited experience. It's like, I could imagine how people might not like colours if the only colour that they ever saw was pink and they didn't see any other colours. Maybe sometimes a little bit of yellow and pink. But, you sort of rhubarb and custard, it's at a certain point you're gonna have enough and not be so impressed with colour. So maybe that's part of the thing that's happened, I don't know. But we haven't entirely lost the need for that. When you think about it, though, it's not a complete loss in that we do still deliberately inconvenience ourselves for the point of an experience. It still happens. And I think that's a good thing. And if you disagree with what I'm saying, I want you to think about how we actually do deliberately inconvenience ourselves for the point of experience. And why on earth would we do that if there wasn't a value in it? So examples are going to the cinema. You go to the cinema, you say, watch it on the big screen. Yes, but you're so far back, you might as well watch it with the lights out in your house. It's like, if you took the size relative to you, it's going to be the same. It's like, stick a screen this far in front of you, and it's going to be just the same as sitting, in a big cinema. It's like, no, it's because it's the sense of occasion. So cinemas would not exist if there wasn't a demand or desire to have something more than just pure convenience. The same thing goes with food, ironically. People go to restaurants and pay stupid money for food that's an inconvenience. I mean, it's cooked for you, that's fine, but you have to actually go to the restaurant, which means you have to travel to the restaurant, which means that you have to take public transport or walk or take a car. And if you take a car, you have to park the car. And if you're in London, parking the car is non-trivial exercise. Maybe use public transport, or the noise of the underground system, the crowds, all the rest of it. And maybe you didn't book because you find that, oh, there's no place, oh, we have to wait half an hour. It's like, you see, we do still sacrifice convenience for the sake of the occasion. And this connects with so many other things. You know, I mean, if you look at video games, same thing. Video game design made a transition from the old days where part of the art of making a video game was not to pamper your audience too much. You know, present a little bit of a challenge, maybe. We ended up at, I don't know if the thing is addressing itself, I don't know. I don't know if it's correcting itself, but we certainly got to a point where there was this idea that what we should do as game designers is never disappoint, never frustrate the player. No, we don't frustrate the player, because frustration is bad. It's a negative thing. We want to only be positive, you see. Let's not frustrate. Let's not frustrate people. But the problem is that, you know, you get rid of the experience, of the tension, of the stress and relief, the ebb and flow of game design, the cycle, the rhythm. You know, because if we were to look, that's a message distracting me there. If we were to look at one of the characteristics of life, if we take the viewpoint that, you know, we are alive as human beings, right? And therefore living is important to us. So we need to look at what differentiates dead things from alive things. And even when I say alive, let's say animated things, right? You see that everything that is not like completely dead has a rhythm. It comes back to music. And the reason I said not just things which are actually literally alive is you can think of the tide, or the seas and the ocean, you know, the waves on the shore. This is all movement. The clouds in the sky. I mean, in a way, they're alive, you know, and there is a rhythm, the rhythm to night and day, the rhythm to the tides coming in and out. Even you can hear, you know, as I say, it's windy. It's not just a constant blowing here. It blows harder, it blows softer. It's almost like it's emotion. Because things that are alive have that. And so it should be in your game, and also your music. I mean, classic thing with musical compositions is that you create tension and release. If it's only tension, and it's only release, it's a bit of nothing. You need both. It's like a dance. When people dance, they're not statues. They move. If you want to be able to move, you need some maneuvering space. You can't just have it all one thing. And this is very well understood, been understood by philosophers for a very long time. Well, you can't make your games just, you know, unfrustrating all the time. I mean, actually you can. But in the end, it'll become nothing. If you do that, it's just, no, you want excitement. Come on. What happened to excitement? Give me that music. Block out the world. Do people ever get excited when they put the music? Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I've got to put the music on. To get that excitement, you need to have no music for a while. And then you look forward to the time when you're going to listen to the music, and then you listen to the music. You say, I'm frustrated because I can't listen to the music right now. No, what you're doing is you're saving yourself up for the moment when you will listen to the music. Similarly with a game. Playing a game, people get frustrated because, why? Why do they get frustrated? They get frustrated because they're playing the game for the wrong reason. Because it's not a game if you're playing it for a purpose. Right? Is it? I mean, but I know that I was a kid too. I remember how it felt. You're playing a game and your mind, I need to beat my high score. And what? By aiming to beat the high score, it's something that drives your excitement in the game. Yes, but it becomes frustrating if you're not getting anywhere. Well, mate, let's make a game where everybody's a winner. Let's make a game where anybody can play it and anybody can win. Let's have life where only happy things happen to people. Let's watch a film that was designed not to have any distressing moments in it at all. Have you ever been wrapped up in a film where it's like you're really going along with it and you're enjoying the whole thing, but you know that something dark is going to happen, something bad is going to happen, and you just, oh no, please, it was all good like this. Why do we have? You have to. It has to be upset, otherwise there's no drama. Because the film is going to end one way or the other. You see? Convenience, the convenience of a you know, there's something like Alan Watts, I do listen to Alan Watts a lot, was talking about the portrayal in art of heaven and hell. And the scenes of hell are, you know, all kinds of crazy, horrible stuff going on. And the scene in heaven is everybody's like this. So in a way, it's like, which is worse? We can convenience ourselves out of existence, and I think that's exactly what humanity will do. Are we heading to that? You see, I remember when I was a kid, I was thinking, when I was, you see, a little bit about my history is that when I came to the UK, well, I came to the UK. When I came to the UK, I was an embryo. No, right. When I was born in the UK. But of an immigrant family. My mother and father are Italian. Hence Dino Dino. And My mother's Catholic, so technically I'm a Catholic boy, you know. So I had to integrate myself into society as a child, as an immigrant family, and also the Catholic religion, which obviously is not so terrible in the UK. Lots of Catholics in the UK, at least back then. Maybe now, I don't know. But you know, you had that. You had the Church of England and so on. But it's a bit different, right? And my mother wanted me to go, you know, somewhere Catholic-y. So there were Catholic schools. But she had trouble getting me into the Catholic school because there needed to be space. So I ended up at a convent for a year, which was the most traumatic experience you can imagine, because basically it's a school run by nuns. Why am I bringing this topic up? I can't remember now. There was a reason, convenience. Oh yeah, no, that was it. And so I had to listen to this stuff that they were sort of teaching and about heaven, and so this question of heaven would come. You know, it's the heaven that we keep chasing all the time, by the way. You see, when people talk about heaven, it's sort of like we're taught, at least I was taught as a kid, to think of it as a place, but it isn't really, as a concept. There isn't heaven. It's a place you go. It just doesn't make sense. Heaven is more like a place, a way of being, I think. And that's the way I think of it now. So I don't really think of heaven as a place. But we were taught that it was. And so as a kid, I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense. It's like, how can heaven be a valid place? It's like, if we all go to heaven, if we are good, so we're good and then we go to heaven, right? Then heaven has to be a perfect place. It's perfect. That's the whole idea of heaven. It's perfect. It's perfect bliss. It's completely convenient. You don't have to worry about anything. You won't get stressed. You will never have anybody say anything nasty to you, which I was used to people saying nasty things to me because I was an immigrant with a strange name. And it's like, I don't get it. If we're all in heaven and heaven is perfect, and it's like, it means we can't annoy each other. But that means that we don't have any free will. Oh! And I don't think I managed to really ask that. Gosh, I wish I could go back and really pull on that one a lot more. You see, that's the problem, isn't it? It's like, you cannot do anything to annoy anybody, which means that you have no free will. In which case, if you have no free will, then how can heaven be a good place? Because there's no... It's almost like when something becomes perfect, it dies. Now, maybe you understand where I'm coming from there or not, I don't know. But the point is, if we look at perfection as being an optimization, then how many perfects are there? It's a fairly good guess that there would be one perfection that is the perfection, that is the most perfect perfection of all perfections. You couldn't get better than that. As good as it gets. The problem is that if you get to the point where it is as good as it gets, then any deviation from the point that is as good as it gets will be less good. Which means that when you reach perfection, you can't actually move because you can't have the rhythm. You won't have the breathing in and the breathing out. It'd be like if breathing in is good, it's a continual breathe in. But nothing can work that way. To reach a state of total perfection is the same as reaching a state of total paralysis. If you look at life as something to be optimized, and that is the point, is that life is not something to be optimized. That's what the danger with that idea is. It's a terrible danger, because then life becomes, ironically, in effort to make things perfect, you actually destroy that thing that you're trying to perfect. And in that way, we destroy a lot of our, things that make us who we are. We destroy music through convenience. We destroy food, the environment. Well, you can see how we can get there eventually, really easily. It's the same thing. Everything reflects everything else. So when you look at the way that music has died in society a lot, so we've got fewer variations of music, less variety of music, and something that is consumed and used, to do things like used to keep you hooked in a movie, or to sell you something in an advert, or keep your attention, and very often geared to maximizing popularity, so lowest common denominators, all that kind of stuff. And so as a result, the diversity of music dies. It's not entirely depressing, because we also have social media, things I'm thinking like YouTube, where we have access now to music that we couldn't access before, that keeps things alive. So it's not entirely depressing. Things are happening that are positive as well. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Is this effect, the optimization thing. So, but we do that, and so as a result, music has the variety of music that we have in the world. That is, let's say, the recorded music is still there, and you can go and see it. But when you're looking at people actually performing music and learning musical instruments, and maybe that's also happening, but sort of we don't see it, right? It's happening behind the scenes. Where do we see people getting together to play musical instruments together? As a musician, I find that really difficult, just to find people to play with. It's a huge frustration. But in a similar way to that, we find that we're also destroying the diversity of life on the planet, and the diversity of foods that we eat too is connected with that. If you go back like 200 years, bananas were different to the way they are now. And there are probably a lot more varieties of bananas available than there are now, Sort of things become commoditized. So, we find that we do this to our environment. We do this to the fauna and flora of the planet. We do this to our creative artistic endeavors too. And it's a great shame, because as we are doing this optimization, right, to make things perfect, we forget that there is a cost. Like I said at the beginning, there is a cost to convenience. And that is, we die a little. Because ultimately, what is life about? I suppose a way of looking at it is, let's go back to music for a moment and consider why an orchestra would play a piece of music. What's the point of it? There is no point, right? This isn't music. We use the word play for music because it is play, it's not purpose. So we play, and the orchestra plays a piece, and if we optimize that piece and that performance, we could say everybody, needs to be going to the theatre to watch this performance, listen to this orchestra from wherever they are, and we need to get them to the venue as quickly as possible. So if we optimize that all the way that we can, we'll just imagine that we have a magic way. We can snap our fingers and everybody's there. So they don't have to bother with the traveling there. We kind of already got that in terms of TV, but whatever. Right, there they all are, boom. And the orchestra are going to play the music. But of course, there's a bit of a potential inconvenience because after all, we are taking up people's time. And time is precious. So it would be really good if we could, get the whole thing done nice and efficiently. Let's just see how quickly we can perform the piece. I mean, because after all, it's just the same series of notes. I mean, it's classical music especially. They're just reading it off the paper, aren't they? Well, let's just get ourselves through that performance as fast as we possibly can, because everybody's come to watch, to listen, to this concert. I mean, why anyway? I mean, why are they doing that? I mean, because they could listen to a recording anyway, and it's a piece that's been performed 75,000 times before anyway. So what? It's just for show, isn't it? I mean, you know what? So people can say that they've been. We can give them a badge or something. We give them a token and say you've been here. Give them an NFT. We'll give them something. Okay, that's fine. And the actual performance bit, in the end, we could cut that out if they don't need it. It's why. We don't need any of that. I'll tell you what, but it's a bit silly, isn't it? It's like, because that really does seem to be a bit pointless. Or maybe we should just sort of, I tell you what, we'll have a competition. It's like, we'll see which orchestra can play it the fastest. There it's it, they managed to complete this piece in 3 minutes, 13 seconds, world record. Because that is what we are doing to our lives. Travel is another case in point, right? We do point-to-point travel. It's almost like teleporting. Here you are, you're in the UK over here, and you want to go to, I don't know, Spain, and you jump on a flight, and you go boop, boop, boop. And everybody's just going from one to the other, boom, 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 like that, But the two places, they become the same. What? The old classic thing, people going on holiday and then foreign country and eating fish and chips. So convenience. So I would like to make an argument that we need to sort of really be careful and stop trying to optimize the hell out of everything. because we will optimize ourselves out of existence. So as you can see from the argument that I'm presenting, we optimize ourselves to try and make things as efficient and perfect in the way that they work as possible, and then that actually means that we don't actually live anymore. I mean, why bother getting up in the morning if you really want to be efficient? Just stay in bed. You know, no, we've got to learn to live again, and the living bit means actually enjoying that texture that life gives us, the rough with the smooth. Things are not, I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, and when they happen, I'm not saying that you've got to be happy, but it's part of just the texture of life. And we've got to stop trying to make everything perfect. And instead look at making things, my thing for 2023, sincerity. And I guess that's way I look at the word sincerity. Sincerity and life, they are together, you know. We shouldn't seek to live a happy life. It's not that a happy life be a bad thing. I'm not saying that. It's just we shouldn't seek it. Because it's one of those things. You seek happiness and immediately you have a problem. Happiness is not something you seek. Happiness cannot be provided by convenience, is what I'm saying. We cannot optimize our way to happiness. It's not like that. Because that's not the way that life works. What we can do is be sincere. And from that sincerity, right, everything else grows. So I found that, you know, it's very easy to get caught up. I want this, I want that. You know, if only I had this, I'd be happy. And I lived a lot of my life in that way. What a waste, honestly. It's like seeking to optimize my path to happiness. It's like, no, it doesn't work. So I don't really want anything anymore in that way. I don't look at it in that way. I wait to see what happens. Even from me, I'm not planning meticulously what I'm going to do and when. With my music, it's like I'm not planning the deliveries of these things. They happen when they happen. I move things forward when it feels right in the moment, as if I was doing what? As if I was playing a tune. Because life is like a song. And it's a dance. It's all the same things. Metaphors are the same things. It's a spontaneity. It's jazz. It happens. You know? And that is the way, I think, in the end, to find happiness, is to relax into that and not keep trying to improve things. So I'll leave with this thought because it connects back to something Alan Watts saying. Alan Watts is in his philosophy, he believed that people could not improve themselves. When I first heard this, I was, as you might imagine, it's like, really? Is that, I mean, self-improvement is not a thing. But with Alan Watts, you have to be careful because it's a very strong Zen component in things. And you know, if you look at what Zen Buddhism is really about, It's about not getting hung up on words. Basically, in other words, the way we describe the world is not the world. Okay. Right. Well, anyway, so the point is that when it comes to self-improvement, he basically makes the argument, and he's quite right, that how can you improve yourself when you are the one who needs to do the improving? Like, you have to actually do the work to improve, but you're also the one who needs to be improved. Or put it another way, if you were capable of improving yourself, why have you not already done that? Why are you already not improved? Right? Or, what I would often say is that, the expression, we've got to lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps, is you can't do that. You cannot lift yourself. It doesn't matter how hard you pull. You're not going to lift yourself up. It's not possible. You cannot improve. Now, when people hear that, they're like, oh, what do you mean? I can't optimize myself further? Well, it's a little... There's this thing, right, that when you try to force things, basically what happens is that you take a small piece of yourself, the conscious layer of yourself, which is very thin. I mean, there's an awful lot that's going on all the time that you are not aware of. I mean, as I'm sitting here talking, it's like I've just been sitting here talking and waving my arms about, but actually there's been a lot of other stuff going on. The blood's going around my body and the heart is beeping, pumping. We've got the breathing, gosh knows what's going on up here. I'd like to know, but the point is, there's a lot going on, but there's this consciousness bit. The conscious bit is a very, very thin, small part of that. And when we try to force things, what we're doing is we're using that very small part of ourselves that is trying to sort of bully everything else. And you can't really. And it's tiring. It drains, very draining indeed. And in fact, you use up all your energy. So there is another approach, right, which is works. I mean, I've tried it. My life. Believe me, forcing things doesn't work. I've tried it. It really doesn't work. You might sort of think that you're getting somewhere for a bit and then suddenly, no. If you stop trying to force it and just relax, in that sense, stop trying to improve yourself, a wonderful thing happens, you see. Because then you find that you recover a lot of energy that you were wasting. And you relax. And you can handle the things that happen so much more effectively. And people will go and look at you in this new way that you are, where you don't have hang-ups, worry about what other people think so much. Just take it as it comes. I'm not saying laissez-faire, I'm not saying not planning. You do all of that, you plan too, but you plan in the moment. I'm not talking about being irresponsible. And they'll just see how you're there and doing that. And they'll go, my, haven't you improved? And that kind of optimization is one I can live with, or love with. So there you go. Until next time. Bye.